This is Grid Race After Dark Edition. George Russell is on the pole. Is he set to take a win and a Mercedes 1-2? Max Verstappen is 20th. Can he get into the points today? Papaya rules. Will that play an impact as they're starting 5th and 6th on the grid? Welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race After Dark Edition. Very excited. We have Nicole Fry from Fans in Focus Media and myself, Joe Samaniego, here for a special Grid Live Pre-Race Formula One. They're back. Nicole, we're so excited to have you back as well. And of course, very excited for all our Patreon investors, Colin, Deshelle, Mark, Robin, David, Matthew, for investing in the Grid Network each and every month, plus Crystal and Nico, our newest one. YouTube Super Chats are also welcome. Get your name on the leaderboard. Buy me a coffee as well. And social media, across social media at Grid Network TV and gridnetworktv.com for all the articles, especially Matthew Bro with his NASCAR coverage. Nicole, let's jump into it. I know it's been a long off season. Haven't had a chance to chat much with you about F1. So let's start about, I think, the biggest story of the weekend. Not about a particular team or a pairing of a new team driver, maybe Cadillac, but I am talking about the 2026 regulations that have everybody on the track wondering what kind of track product we're going to get. Mercedes swept the front row. We've heard a lot about their horsepower advantage, and it looked very apparent in qualifying. Russell just cruised to the pole. Kimi Antonelli, recovery from a big crash in practice to the front row. What an effort by this kid, still 19 years old, just amazing. We've heard Lewis Hamilton, though, and Max Verstappen on the opposite side, just critical of the package, the regulations, maybe too complicated. Not to mention, we know about Aston Martin's woes. We'll get into that later in the show with Honda. The recharge, the active aero, we're seeing that. We've seen pre-season coverage from testing about how it doesn't seem to be allowing the most passes. So I have to ask you, Nicole, when I look at the stats of Melbourne, last year we had 4 lead changes, but we had wet weather. That makes it a little bit more chaotic. 2024, only 1 lead change. 3 in 2023, and no lead changes in 2022. We didn't have this race 2021 or 2020 because of the pandemic. So really, when you're looking at those trends, what we're expecting, what's your opinion, I guess, it's my first part of the question, on these new regulations? And could the race today, the track product, change your opinion?
Absolutely. I think it's so hard to say what these regulations are actually going to do, or like we have both teams and drivers who are highly critical of the cars right now, of the way they're performing, of these new regulations. And I think it's just because there's so much left unsaid. We don't have a good grip on what these regulations are actually going to do with the cars. And if it's really the regulations that are causing issues, or if it's just the team struggling to develop a proper car. It is so early in the season. Testing doesn't always give us as much insight as I think we would like to originally have. And I've got to say, I don't think we can say one way or another if these regulations are actually good yet. I think we need to give these teams a little bit of time to figure it out, and fans a little bit of time to figure it out as well, because as we know, it's part of the reason why they changed the regulations is to give fans a little bit more of an exciting show. And whether fans are actually receptive to that is still kind of up in the air.
I have to say, when it comes to the regulations and that exciting show aspect, we're seeing that in across motorsports. I feel NASCAR, we want a package that makes the track product exciting. IndyCar, they're going to be getting a new chassis in, I believe, 2028 finally, and they're going to be talking about how can we make the racing competitive. I don't have really an opinion on this either. I just feel like we just got to wait and see until this race turns out, because it could be a stinker, but just looking at some of those stats, I feel like Mercedes, they're the favorite. If nothing goes wrong, we may still have some good racing up towards 3rd place, 4th place, midfield. But if they have an advantage, well, that's just something where any team, new regulations, if they could capitalize on that, they'll just run away with it. And of course, the driver that really wants to run away with that is George Russell. George Russell looking to get the win easy pole. Kimi Antonelli's there, though. He's second place. Young driver. Last year, we remember how people were questioning, is he really ready? Toto Wolff was even critical of him a couple times. Do you believe he could play an upset role, maybe go for that win? Or do you think he'll still have that almost that rookie mindset of bringing home in one piece, and if I get a podium, that's a good day?
I mean, he is still so young. I think he, for at least a couple more seasons, is going to have a little bit of hesitancy, a little bit of a learner's curve still, because not only is he still what I would consider kind of a rookie, because I think this is only his second year. He is now adapting to a new car, new regs, new changes, and this is going to cause upset with basically everybody. Everybody is relearning how to drive in these next couple of Grand Prix, Kimi included. So I think with the car and with how good Mercedes is currently looking, especially with George Russell's comments, I think he does stand a really good chance of kind of being a little bit of an upset. I think he can kind of be that second driver that like Red Bull has been craving for years, but for Mercedes, he has so much potential. He's incredibly quick and he's really adaptive. That's one thing we've seen with a lot of these younger drivers who've been coming in over the past couple of years is despite the fact that they've been put in tough cars, sometimes they can learn quickly. And I think if you put a driver like Kimi Antonelli, who has so much in front of him, into a really good car, he stands a good chance of not only being a great second driver for Mercedes, but possibly even beating George Russell.
Yeah, as young as he is, the talent, I feel like it's just a matter of when he gets to that point and really race George Russell. I will be thinking, though, if we see a mistake in pit road, or if George Russell has a little bit of an issue and Kimi gets around, watch out. Kimi, I don't think will make that mistake. I don't think the pressure will get to him. Now, if he has a driver, say, like, I don't know if it's possible with these regulations, if Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton is right behind him challenging for the win, that would be fun to see how Kimi could handle that kind of pressure. We got a question in the chat room, and Nicole, I'd definitely like to hear your thoughts on this. From Jason, can Isaack Hadjar win?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I think Hadjar, as well as many of the kind of up and coming rookies, including Bortoleto, and is it Lindblad? I think there's a shot. There's a shot for them winning, and I think the real question is, does Isack Hadjar have a car that can win? Everything is possible. We have a couple of Grand Prix on the calendar like Monaco where you get lucky one time during one run and you could win the entire thing just based on the way the track works and the way these cars are kind of shaking out. It's possible, especially with a grid this year where even the commentators, pros who have been in the sport for decades, are saying, yeah, we're going to be lucky to see even half these teams potentially finish today's Grand Prix.
I think Isack Hadjar, I would agree with you. I think mainly if there's issues for those Mercedes drivers and he puts himself, he needs a clean start, in my opinion. Get away from Leclerc, the Ferraris, the McLarens. If he has that clean air because the two Mercedes are up front and then something goes wrong and he's there, all of a sudden, that'd be a huge. The thought about the Racing Bulls, I mean, you got both of them, 9th and 8th place, Liam Lawson. You mentioned about how you think they could get a win. I have to ask a follow-up. Liam Lawson, do you think this could be a breakout season being with that team full-time, no switch, podiums, maybe a win?
I hope so. I hope so, not necessarily for Racing Bull's sake, but rather for Liam's. I think it was even brutal listening to the commentary the past couple of days around his new teammates' performance and just how that is kind of going. I think he needs a good season, and I think anything is possible. We're not that far into the season. We have yet to have our first Grand Prix. I do think it's possible for Liam Lawson to be on the podium. I think it's a really good chance because they've been developing that car for years, and I think their car over the past couple of seasons is going to be a little bit more suited possibly to these current regulations. But at the end of the day, if their car doesn't make it over the finish line consistently, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, you need that consistency to be in a contention place to win. It's just going to be one of those deals where we're going to see how it all shapes up this season for Formula One. Of course, that's going to be coming up shortly. Everyone's been talking about Mercedes, the front row. But let's talk about the second to last row, which 1 year ago we would be saying he was starting dead last, but he's starting 20th out of 22 because we got a new team. Cadillac, field expanded. Max Verstappen crashed out in Q1 qualifying. Hit the brakes, the rear end locked up, sent him over the gravel trap, into the wall, done for the day. Now, in the past, we've seen him start in the pit lane, start in the back, work his way towards the front, point finishes, podiums, even get a win. But Nicole, with these new regulations, is it just too complicated where you feel like Max Verstappen, are we thinking he's going to get in that top 10, get those points, or do we think this is going to be a much harder road for him?
This Grand Prix, I'm not sure. It seems like he's really not comfortable in the car, and this is Max Verstappen. This is a man who is known for being able to drive anything, anywhere, in any conditions. The fact that he seems to be struggling so much is a little concerning, though it's not completely, I would say, unexpected for him. In the past, we've seen him struggle a little bit or complain of struggling a lot in, the first beginning half of the season, and then he just comes out and dominates the field. And in reality, he's struggling for Max Verstappen, which sometimes is still better than half of the grid combined. It's going to be an interesting one. I do think this season we will see Max score points. I think that he is just such a generational talent. He works so hard at what he does. He's like obsessive in his need to win that he will become in at least the top 10, at least the midfield. He will kind of pass that like back half of the pack. But for this Grand Prix, for the Australian Grand Prix in particular, I can't say that he's going to do that for certain.
It's going to be very hard first Grand Prix to have something like that. I just don't see with this regulation package and changes, because they're going to be learning everything too. So I think this could be a race where Isack Hadjar leaving with points, Max Verstappen with no points. I think the only time we would talk about that is like if he was taken out in a first lap crash or some weird mechanical issue. But if it was just solely on pace, that would be a shock. But of course, with this race, we've seen at times where nutrition of the cars, just cars having DNF, mechanical issues, gets really high. That could be something that works for Verstappen as long as he's not one of those drivers. Now, I have to say, speaking about those drivers, I can't help but think Yuki Tsunoda out of the seat, Isack Hadjar is in the seat. We saw a strong qualifying effort, third on the grid. Isack Hadjar has to be very happy, and we've seen the memes already online of the curse being broken, but it's just one race with this new regulation package. We got to wait and see. But I can't help but think when Sebastian Vettel was the number one driver, and here comes a new teammate, Daniel Ricciardo, and Daniel Ricciardo started performing better, we saw Vettel go to Ferrari. Max Verstappen came in, outperformed Ricciardo. Ricciardo left for Renault. Now that's Alpine. If we see Isack Hadjar finish ahead of Max Verstappen, and let's throw it out there, let's just say Max Verstappen does not get points and Hadjar's a podium or something bigger, is there a big confidence boost for Hadjar saying, hey, I belong here? And could maybe the rumor mill start spreading about Max Verstappen looking at other teams?
See, the thing is, I think, and I have it in my notes in bold, like I highlighted it ahead of the show, Max is more likely to retire than go to another team. I think he said it himself in a couple of interviews. Again, it's Max Verstappen. Sometimes he says these things, and is it really what's going to happen at the end of the day? Probably not. But of course, he would potentially look at what his future looks like. I do think he potentially won't go to another team. I don't think he's going to Ferrari. I think those rumors are a little bit out there. I think he would heavily consider a team that has a better car. But right now, no other team has a better car. They just simply do not. McLaren doesn't seem to have a better car. Mercedes maybe, but depending on how George and Kimi Antonelli do, I don't think they're going to take a gamble on the very expensive Max Verstappen, who has said that he's going to retire in, the next couple of years, possibly. So as far as that's concerned, everyone kind of shops around. Everyone looks at the offers and has conversations with other teams. I don't think Max is going anywhere, however. I do think, however, it is going to be a major boost, Joe, for Isack Hadjar. I think if he can perform well, just like any rookie in their second, third season can, he has so much potential. He has a lot of options. I would say he has more than Max Verstappen in many regards, because he still has so much life left in him in this sport. Not that Max doesn't, but you got to admit, Isack is a little bit younger, just like all the other rookies, like Gabby and Kimi. And at the end of the day, I think it will be good for the team. It will be good for Max if Isack is scoring points. And I think with the new leadership changes, with the new attitude changes we've seen with Red Bull over the past couple of months, the past season and a half, I think that's going to make a difference. And I think at the end of the day, they're going to be more focused on making sure that as a team, they're dominating once again, because right now, this can't just be about Max Verstappen, because McLaren is beating them. McLaren did beat them. And the longer they just kind of refuse to acknowledge that, is the longer they stay in the past and they're unable to move forward. So I think this is a really good chance for Red Bull to kind of have a clean slate, to kind of take some risks, to kind of build up their team in a lot of different ways. And I think points all around is just going to be good for anybody at this rate.
The points will be great, especially since last year, disappointing season with no drivers' championship. Really, Max Verstappen carried that team to get close to it. The constructors, that went away quickly with what we saw from McLaren. And that leadership change midway through the season. I still remember where we all were when Horner got let go, and then the news of Herman Melko. I mean, it was just big year for changes and everything for that team. And this year, none of that going on. I think Isack Hadjar will be in a great spot. I'm really curious, though, just because he crashed before he even got to do a lap in this race last year. Granted, it was wet conditions. I just almost wondered if he will be like a rookie still, in that sense that I didn't really do this race.
Yeah, I think it will be interesting because, I mean, in comparison, Max crashed in qualifying. One of the best drivers currently to ever exist crashed in qualifying, and anything can happen. We also saw very famously Oscar Piastri almost did not finish this Grand Prix last year. And so it's so early in the season. I think mentally, if any driver struggles today, it is going to bear far more weight than if they simply just maybe don't get some points. So we'll have to see. But I think the way Isack and quite frankly, the entire Red Bull team is looking right now, it gives me hope that they will actually do quite well.
It'll be interesting to see how Red Bull does. In the chat room, we have Darkness Fallen. The season's going to be boring if Kimi Antonelli can't compete against George Russell. Mercedes gap between the second fastest team is way too off for any other team to make up that difference. Do you agree with that notion? I mean, if this was a 12-season schedule, I said maybe, but 24 races is a long time, Nicole.
I got to agree, Joe. I think you're spot on. I think we can't say anything just yet. That's what makes predictions this early in the season, in many ways, just a shot in the dark, pure luck, a flip of the coin, whatever you would like to call it. We have no idea how these teams will progress. We have no idea what they're going to do, what kind of regulation changes will come in the future, how the regs will play out, what kind of teams will be able to develop cars faster and faster than each other. There is so much unknown right now for the 2026 F1 season. I don't think we can really call it anyway. And as much fun as it would be to say, like, oh yes, George Russell or Kimi Antonelli will like completely dominate, I would love to say that. I don't think we can.
Yeah, I just don't think we can. I mean, it's just way too early, and there could be technical changes throughout the season as well too that the FIA impose, and that would just throw everything up in the air. Jason, Max to IndyCar, NASCAR? Oh man, I think maybe because you mentioned our retirement, IMSA. I don't know. I think maybe more WEC might be his suit. You got thoughts on?
I think, Jason, if anything, you're probably spot on with IMSA, but I also agree, Joe. I think Max would do wonderful in WEC. I think that would just be a perfect home for him because he could go race his little heart out. He could do like, the 24 hours of Le Mans. He could do so well and he could do so many cool tracks and all over the world. I think he would just enjoy it.
Yeah, I think he's just a true racer. I mean, what he's been doing in Nürburgring with those sports cars out there, I could just see, like, I have to agree with you with the notion that he's going to rather retire and race other disciplines rather than switch to another team. And especially if Kimi Antonelli has a good season, it's like, okay, they're not going to give him up if he's proven his worth. Ferrari, they're here to miss with the cars, it appears, and everybody else. I mean, that'll be a head scratcher, I think, as some people would say. The one team maybe he would consider, maybe McLaren. We know what that team is capable of. We know Lando Norris is now sporting that number one. Long time since Lewis Hamilton, I believe, sported number one. But we all know what happened last year between him, Oscar Piastri, and the papaya rules, which became just a term where people were just sometimes got excited. We're talking about McLaren and the drama, or they just loathed that and, oh, what are they doing? Drive to Survive, of course, came out, and they didn't really paint it in that picture. Some fans have been voicing their opinions on it. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it all, but do you feel Netflix sort of missed a genuine storyline between those two drivers?
Yes, and mostly because I think even from the prior season, everyone was kind of looking at McLaren very hopefully. They had so much potential ahead of them. Everyone was kind of wondering when their time would come. And pretty early on, I feel like in the 2025 season, we knew McLaren was going to be a top contender. It was undeniable. If anything, it was early enough in the season where I think we all expected Drive to Survive to make some, editorial changes, potentially make it a little bit more dramatic than necessary, as they are prone to doing, and really kind of try to sell this story of McLaren. And the fact that it really wasn't as prominent as I think many fans were expecting, especially since they were quite literally the world champions in every regard, it was a little shocking. It was definitely a choice. I don't know what behind the scenes kind of led them to those decisions. But at the end of the day, it was a little bit disappointing as a fan just to kind of see how little care and attention was actually paid to what could have really been such a dramatic and really kind of emotional storyline.
Yeah, very emotional storyline. I was really anticipating this would be just great for Netflix to put that in the teasers to preview the season and build up the hype, and anybody watching it, especially the newer fans, that weren't around for the McLaren battle between Alan Prost, Ayrton Senna. That was something people were talking about. McLaren, when they had a young Lewis Hamilton rookie season and the defending series champion with Fernando Alonso, that drama. I really felt it was a big missed opportunity because it's not that often you get two teammates so good racing that close against each other. I wish we could have seen more, and I don't know, it's one of those, I would say, a miss in my opinion. In the chat room, I see Jason, McLaren shouldn't have team orders today. I think that's a safe assumption, Nicole. Can you see any scenarios?
I think every team has team orders when it comes down to it. I think it's really unlikely that they'll ever come up today. But I think papaya rules will always play a part. And I also think, like, kind of as you mentioned before, Joe, why Max may not ever go to McLaren, because he's simply just so used to kind of having his very particular ways at Red Bull. They cater very precisely to him. I don't think papaya rules would play into Max's favor, and I don't think papaya rules will play into anyone's hand a little bit today. It will be interesting to see what, if any, situations this season kind of call for team orders and papaya rules. Obviously, as we've said many times on the show already, only time will tell.
Only time will tell once it all plays out. Now, with the McLaren drivers, 5th and 6th, to get in that third row, Oscar starting ahead of Lando Norris, but it's going to come down to the start. Who has that better starting position be a factor, where you are on the grid, the dirty side or the clean side, who gets the better time, so many factors. And let's throw in that the competition around them, because if you have the two Mercedes in the front row, they run away with it. You're then going to have Isack Hadjar, the two Ferraris, the McLaren drivers. They're all going to be fighting for that final step on the podium. 15 points. That's big. Now, last year, we saw everything that occurred with this race. Now it's a new year, new race. Lando sporting that number 1 to prove I'm the defending champion. You mentioned about how papaya rules, you don't anticipate that's going to be today, but overall, you mentioned about how it's going to be playing an effect. Do you think they're going to start thinking about the drivers that I have to finish ahead of Lando Norris, or I have to finish ahead of my teammate Oscar Piastri, because if I don't, and there's that points gap, then it might come into papaya rules.
Oh, absolutely. I think they would be crazy not to. I think it's going to be on the minds of every driver, of every team, of every performance coach. Like, how do you put your driver in the spotlight this early into the season? How can you kind of make sure that happens so that towards the end of the season, when things are potentially becoming a little bit tighter, a little bit closer, they have enough room to breathe? We've seen this be a really big struggle for many teams and many drivers over the years, just that really dominant start, and then it fizzles out once new parts come into play for different teams, once teams slowly upgrade throughout the year, once penalties come into play, and once DNFs come into play heavily throughout the second half of the season. It's going to absolutely matter. And more points is just a driver's way of getting closer to that championship. And if they can show very early on, even at the Australian Grand Prix, the season opener, that they are not here to mess around, I think that is going to be good for them, and it's going to be good for their teams.
It's going to be a lot of fun to see what all happens. In the chat room, I know we're streaming on Instagram, and we had a chat comment there. It doesn't show up in our chat here, but person asked, where can we watch Formula One? If you're in the United States, Apple TV, you could download. There's even a 7-day free trial, so perfect timing to download it, watch the race. So you want to keep it around. Internationally, you still have your options. If you're in the UK, Sky Sports is a big one, but F1 TV app, F1 TV subscription internationally as well. Darkness has fallen. I'm pretty sure Max Verstappen wants to beat the record 7 world championships. If Kimi Antonelli can't compete, I see Toto replacing him with Max, especially because he's always wanted him since 2015. We heard a little bit those rumors, as I see he has a follow-up here. Max Verstappen in a black suit sure fits him well. I have to say, too, we all know orange is the Dutch color, so I could see him in the papaya orange, but you have thoughts on this comment about if we see Kimi not performing up to that standard?
I think Toto will absolutely want Max Verstappen. I don't know if Max Verstappen will want Toto, though. I think that is going to be an interesting personal choice. Again, we know Max Verstappen is a very particular person with how he drives, with how he performs, with his schedule, with his media responsibilities. And it's, I think, part of the reason why he stayed at Red Bull so long, even early on in his dominating career, is because he was comfortable. And that speaks volumes for a driver, because if you feel your best, you can perform your best. And I think, again, everyone shops around a little bit. I think Max would be crazy not to meet with Toto Wolff at least once to see what's on the table, especially if Kimi Antonelli isn't going to be performing well. However, I think we still have a lot left out of Kimi Antonelli. Like I mentioned before, he's just so young in his career that the gift of having a young driver is very much present. And that's the ability to kind of shape them and mold them and bring them up the way you and your organization want them to perform. And I think that is, in many regards, so much more valuable than a driver who is incredibly particular and who you kind of have to retrain an entire team to serve. And to kind of like complement in many regards. So I guess it's just kind of like a pick your poison. What does Mercedes actually want to do? Are they willing to retrain? Are they willing to adapt to a new driver? Or would they rather take the sometimes longer and more difficult and a little bit more painful road of developing something completely from the ground up?
Great points there, especially that younger driver if you have Max Verstappen come in, he has a standard, and it's sort of, I'm coming here to bring my skill set. Where if you have a young rookie, spot on, I agree with you. You could mold that rookie too. This is what we anticipate. This is what we want from you. Oh, it's going to be so fun to just see what happens with this season as the results start piling in. The rumors will start spreading. It's going to be a lot of fun this year. One team, I feel like it seems like they're having fun, they're doing great, and then they stumble, and then they're just making people wondering, Ferrari, oh Ferrari, what are you doing today? It's one of those deals where everyone saw the wedding photos from Charles Leclerc and Leo the dog. It's stealing the spotlight on social media. Congratulations to them. Leo, such a cute pup. We saw Lewis Hamilton in the news. He now has a cow. It's named Max. He didn't name it Max, but I just thought that's the most random thing I've heard Lewis Hamilton do in a while is now have a cow. The car looks decent, I would say. And even we saw early on the pre-season test and how the wing had that inverted flip, and people were, Ferrari, this looks great. You guys are back. And then we had a incident where I was just like, this just seems like something Ferrari would have an incident during a fan event while Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc were on stage. A smoke machine malfunctioned and just flooded the stage with smoke. And I just, Ferrari, oh my gosh. Considering everything this team has just seemed to go through, and just seems all the pressure they have, but some of these comedy of errors, it just seems, what goals will Ferrari have for today's race? Are we talking a win, double podiums, or just an unknown again with the new regulations?
I think, well, first off, I think the curse of Ferrari is real. Unfortunately, I do. I mean, there's no other way to explain all of the things that have happened to them over the years. But I think if they can just finish the Grand Prix today, like many other teams, if they can just simply cross the finish line in mostly one piece, they will be perfectly fine. That is going to be the real test, is not if you can get a podium, not if your drivers can score points, if you can simply finish. Because we are not necessarily expecting the cars to finish today. There are so many teams who have so many issues right now that if everyone makes it across the finish line, like, Joe, I will buy you a coffee, because I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. And it's going to cause everyone a little bit of stress, I do fear, with just everything that is going to happen today. I mean, the cars didn't even finish last season. For the most part, we had so many issues, and with the new regs, I think that's only going to bring out kind of the worst of these cars as they go through their first round of trial and tribulations. It is just going to be, I think, kind of a mess.
It could be a mess. I am thinking though, like, okay, what kind of coffee I would get if for some reason every single car finished that race, but I agree, it's slim, just because with such new rules, new regulations, there's just bound to be mechanical errors. In the chat room, and I think this could be a fun question to ask, 10 cars will finish. How many cars do you think will finish today, Nicole?
Oh, see, my lucky number is 12, so I'm going to go with 12.
12, wow. Man, I think
Jared,
I'm going to...
You got a number?
Well, my lucky number is 53, but that's way too large, so that's not going to happen. I'm trying to think. I'm going to go higher, 14. Not by much. I'm going to say 3 will crash out, and then the others that will go out are mechanical related. But you just never know. I mean, we've seen how on this track, the famous first lap, first corner crash, we haven't seen that in a long time. Not really since Ralf Schumacher went airborne over Rubens Barrichello, the last time I could recall. Also, another comment in the chat room. Did someone say 53? Of course, Ben Schneider, number 53.
Hey, Ben.
We miss you, Ben. Encourage everyone, be sure to subscribe to his channel. Watch Motorsport Monday. Him and Brandon, a lot of talking. And, of course, always around. Good to see them in the chat room. Encourage everyone in the chat room. Definitely share your thoughts, opinions, and questions. This one, I'm hoping to see a lot of people's thoughts on this. And I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on this. Aston Martin
I've been waiting for this.
starting the race, and then what a lot of fans call, especially in the NASCAR world, start and park, retire from the race early before any issues occur. Their testing woes have been well documented. They have Adrian Newey, considered the best. Everybody was just so, this is going to be so great for the team. They have Fernando Alonso, the most experienced driver on the grid. We've seen him get podiums with Aston Martin a couple seasons ago. Lawrence Stroll and the money he just bankrolling into this team. Oh, this team is going to be on fire in 2026. It's been a dumpster fire, not the kind of fire that's hot, but the kind that you just want to push away into the street and see it float away in a flood. We remember F1, how they were so critical about Andretti's Cadillac entry that, oh, you guys are not fit, you guys are not ready. The integrity of F1. And then we have this mess where all the fans, especially modern day F1, they know all the teams, they know all the drivers, there's a connection. And I feel if you're a Fernando Alonso fan, you're dreading this race. You're hoping a miracle occurs. That maybe if 12 cars finished, all the other cars that dropped out, Aston Martin somehow just kept going because, hey, we're not out yet. How embarrassing is this for Aston Martin with all the resources they have, or even Honda has, where they're working on this, a crisis team to help out with the engine. But is this embarrassing for F1 as a whole when a team like Aston Martin is having this much trouble?
Oh, see, I think for the sport as a whole, it's not embarrassing. And in many regards, it's kind of expected every year. There's always going to be a background, there's someone who isn't going to perform to standard, to form, whatever you would like to say. I think it is highly unfortunate, though, that it just happens to be Aston Martin. Like last year, I would say it was Alpine. They were nowhere. Everyone kind of forgot they existed for a little bit, myself included. I consistently was like, wait, what is our 10th team on the grid? Because they were so far behind everyone else. And a couple of years ago was also Haas, the newcomers on the grid. It took them a couple seasons to really kind of get to that midfield position. And I think now, unfortunately, it is time for Aston Martin to go through that trial. I think it also goes to show that just because you have the big names, the big money, the big talent, it doesn't mean all of that is going to align perfectly on their first try. This is their first season all together. Yes, Adrian Newey was there last year. He was working on some projects. He was working on the 2026 car, but that doesn't mean they've really spent a lot of time together in the capacity of actually racing cars on track. And Adrian Newey is not a god. He is not perfect. He is amazing. He is wonderful at what he does. He is a brilliant, brilliant man. And I do, in fact, have my laptop like perched on his book right now because that is how I can actually like raise my computer. He is well known for being a legend in his own right within this sport. But it doesn't mean he's perfect. And it's going to take a little bit of time just to get everything sorted out. And the fact that it's all kind of coinciding with regulation changes, ideally, was a wonderful thing, but I don't always think it's going to work out the way we always want it to the first time around. And we're really seeing it unfortunately play out. And who knows, maybe it will be like the porpoising we saw a couple of seasons ago, where they kind of get it together pretty quickly and they're able to kind of turn things around by, quarter way through the season. I think the worst case scenario, though, for Aston Martin is that they don't really recover by the time we're halfway through the season and that they go into the summer break still feeling confused and conflicted and really on uneven ground. I think that is actually the worst case, is if they're just unable to turn this around completely.
The worst case scenario you mentioned, I 100% agree with, because I feel that would be such a horrible way for Fernando Alonso to close out his F1 career in a very uncompetitive car. For Adrian Newey the aura of Adrian Newey, he's so great. And then he went out with an absolute disaster of a car. I don't think anybody wants to see that. And for the fans of Aston Martin and just the fans of F1, I think to have a team, if they're that bad of a situation, if it's as bad as they say, it might be worse than what Alpine had last year. Oh man, that would be just so embarrassing, I think. And it's just one of those deals, new regulations. Some teams will get it right, some teams just got it horribly wrong. in the chat room, Ben, 13th finish in 2014, and only 15 cars even started this race in 2015, 11 finish. I'd be shocked if more than 12 finished today. So I think going with you. Blue Tractor meme was when I remembered Alpine existed. I remember that meme.
Yes. That was so funny.
Every time when I hear Crofty's voice and see that tractor just bouncing around the dirt, it just makes me laugh all the time. Darkness has fallen. Aston Martin made a big mistake transition from Mercedes engines to Honda engine. Mercedes has the best track record in making new hybrid engines. Thoughts on that comment? Because we know they did that engine switch.
Yeah, it's hard to deny. Mercedes does have a really good track record with all of this, but I also think, just because you have a good track record doesn't mean the gamble isn't worth it. And I think that's where teams really took a risk last year, is trying to figure out who their manufacturer was going to be, whether they're going to be a customer team or not, and if so, whose customer. It is just something that no one really truly, I think, could have prepared for. And I think there will be some teams who took risks and it will turn out very well for them. However, I think Aston Martin, it really depends on what Honda can push out in the next month and a half or so. If they're unable to get it together really quickly, they are going to struggle, no doubt, for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a lot of struggle for that team. And when it comes to engines, I mean, we saw how Honda went from, it came back to F1 with McLaren and they were just a disaster. Then it was announced, oh, they're going to Red Bull. And a lot of us were thinking, Red Bull, what are you doing? You're making a mistake. Well, that mistake paid off with big dividends because they were super successful. Then people, oh, they're going to Aston Martin. That's great. You're going to have this great power unit, and it's just not looking that good. I just think the irony of Fernando Alonso's back with them again is not helping. And when it comes to the teams, of course, you look at Alpine this year, they got new engines too. They're no longer making their own in-house engines. I mean, Mercedes power. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. And just the fact, one team, I know you mentioned a little bit about the rookie driver from last year, Gabby, of course, Nico Hülkenberg. There was Aston Martin, Audi, Audi, strong showing, but then qualifying, I felt so bad for Gabby just seeing his car roll to a stop. And if it had just passed that white line in pit road, then the team could have pushed him off, kept going. Love to see what he could do. Nico Hülkenberg is going to be out there. I think a lot of fans will love to see him get another podium session after last year's surprise. And now that team fully Audi. That's going to be great. Cadillac, they're in the picture too. We'll talk a little bit about them. Williams, we haven't talked much about them at all. I mean, overweight car, Carlos Sainz did not make a lap. But I was a bit surprised seeing how Alex Albon was doing in qualifying, considering that car isn't up there. Were you surprised by that as well too?
I was. I found it actually very reminiscent. I think it was last year of the McLaren cars that were overweight, and kind of just a little bit hopeful for them. I think Williams is a team that for many years has been a fan favorite simply because the way they present themselves, their drivers, the way that they just seem to kind of wrap their strengths around them and really champion for their team and their community. And I dare to say I'm slightly optimistic about what's going to happen with them in this season. I think this could really be, for the first time in a long time, one of their best seasons. They had a good season last year. They had a really good run. I think depending on what happens and how far they're able to drive their current tractor will really determine quite a lot. But if they're able to develop quickly and shave a little bit of weight off their car and adapt to their drivers in the manner that we saw Alex driving his car yesterday, I think we can expect some great things out of them, but only if they're able to actually pull off those changes.
Changes are going to really matter. Another question from the chat room. Audi going to have better results compared to last year?
I hope so.
That's a hard question.
It's so difficult to tell. I think they have two really good drivers. I think that is undeniable. I think we all want to see Hülkenberg with an actual trophy and not just a Lego trophy. Though he says he loves it, I think he was lying. I think he needs a real trophy, and I would love to give that to him personally this year. And I think Audi has the ability to do that. Again, we don't really know for certain anything at all just yet about how these teams, these cars, or their drivers will perform. But I do think it's not impossible that we could see Audi, like, upper middle grid. Joe, what do you think?
I'm thinking at upper middle grid too, especially what we saw from Gabby getting up to Q3, have clean races. He's not a rookie, so don't anticipate the rookie mistakes. I think he could be in the top 10, especially if I'm looking at Williams that, okay, if they're struggling, that's one team you could beat. Cadillac, that's going to be something else to see how they start off. Haas, that's, I think, the wild card team for me. Are they going to be that upper mid team, or are they going to be back towards the back again like they've been before? So I think there's a potential. And then Nico Hülkenberg, he brings so much experience. I mean, he got quite a number of points finishes. I think he got more points finishes than non-points finishes last year. Mm-hmm. So I think it's easy for him. So if you get Gabby getting up there, getting those points, all of a sudden you're going to have a team that, trying to think through the math in my head, if I was thinking of this constructor, there's just going to be Mercedes. Then it's really close between McLaren, Ferrari, and Red Bull. And the way Williams is not looking that great, unless Racing Bull is that 5th place team, I would not be shocked if Audi's a 6th place team. Do you think that's a little too high, 6th place for the Audi?
I don't. In fact, I think they could potentially even be a little bit higher. I think some of these midfield teams have kind of been waiting for their shot. And I think 2026 could be the season that is just different enough for one of those teams to truly get kind of lucky. Like a good mix of skill, but also a lot of luck. I think maybe one of them could actually pull off a top 5 finish.
That'll be something else. Cadillac, I feel they might be relying a little bit on luck too. We all remember when Haas was brand new, first race, Roman Grosjean got, I believe, an 8th place finish, scored points. Great effort. But that was a huge accomplishment. Cadillac, I honestly thought it would be a little bit stronger, but then it was over the reality check when it was qualifying. Okay, they're not the last rope. Well, yeah, Lance Stroll and Carlos Sainz didn't make times, and then Max Verstappen crashed, so 18th, 19th. Both drivers, ironically, lost a rear view mirror. One lost the left mirror, one lost the right mirror. Maybe somebody forgot to put super glue on each side, whichever side they were working on. But they are 4 seconds behind George Russell's pole time. Is there a goal for this team? Is it just finish, build that experience? Or do you think the drivers, especially a driver like Sergio Perez, thinking, no, I'd like to try to get points?
I think more than anything, they need information about how the heck their car is actually performing on track over a long duration of time. I don't know if they'll actually be able to finish the Grand Prix. I hope so. I think they desperately need to. But these drivers, and I think why they chose these drivers, is for their experience, because they can accurately and articulately give the team really good feedback about how the car is performing, what they need to improve in ways that Cadillac maybe doesn't even recognize just yet. And I think that for them is going to be the most important goal of the day, just making sure they can actually get enough laps in to get some good info so that they can kind of slowly make changes to their car. Because I think it's safe to say that no one really wants to see them at the back of the grid. And the quicker they can move up to like the midfield, obviously, the better it's going to be for everybody involved. And it would be nice to see them, at least by the middle of the season, improve drastically.
Be interesting to see how much of an improvement Bottas to score points.
Oh, that'd be lovely.
That would be a very pleasant surprise. I would say if we're halfway through the season, if he has 2 points finishes, I think that's a great start for the team. Do you think that's real?
I think it's a good start. And I think, honestly, if we're predicting 12 to 14 cars finishing the Grand Prix, I think it's very likely that he could end up with points. Depending on how all of that shakes out, who kind of gets caught in the crosshair of debris. We saw 2 cars lose mirrors. We saw, I think it was a cooling duct left in the Mercedes car. Like, mistakes are being made. Mistakes are being made, and that happens very naturally in the first couple of Grand Prix as everyone kind of settles in and adjusts. all across the teams, from the drivers to the team members themselves, I think anything can happen. And I think, if we are right in our predictions, we could see Bottas in points pretty early on.
It'll be interesting to see Bottas, what he does. Why does the Cadillac car livery literally look like the default display car to 2026? I don't recall the 2026 car.
I mean, because quite frankly, I think as someone who looks at the cars more often than I should at times and cares way too much, I think one, it looks like that because the lack of sponsorship that is currently plastered over the cars. A lot of these teams have a lot of logos everywhere, like covering every inch of those cars. So I think that's part of what makes it look very similar. Also, they just don't really have a distinct color palette. And that tends to lean into that very generic 2026 car look. I think if they were like, let's say Ferrari or Williams, or even like the old Kick Sauber, I think their car color would look very distinct, just because the second you add a splash of brightness, those cars look so different.
Yeah, add a little bit of color, brightness, that will do a lot. I mean, if they get a sponsor and it's all of a sudden a bright lime green logo like Spotify, everyone is going to really notice that. Bottas is my pick a winner. I am delusional.
Ben, I support the delusion. Ben. That's a wonderful pick. Mostly because I think my pick a winner will actually win and I will beat you in this week's standings.
I want to say, I think last year he picked Gabriel Borratello for a pick a winner at one point, but I don't remember. I just remember we were all on the air when that occurred. So definitely. And with that said, Ben has shared his pick a winner. We encourage everyone in the chat room, share your pick a winner. Taking a look at the standings for pick a winner. It is still very early. We still have over 150 races to go across the grid ranking. So very early. Matthew Bro got some points. Kobe, second place, but tied with him. Tanner, who had 1 point, but he got 3 of the 4 supercar drivers right, plus Joseph Newgarden. It goes from near last to tie for second. Isha Bashwa on the board. Nicole, it's time for you to get on the board. So I'm going to ask you and encourage everyone in the chat room, share your pick a winner so well too. Who do you think is going to win the Grand Prix of Australia?
Oh, I debated this long and hard, Joe. I think my pick a winner this week is going to be Kimi Antonelli. I'd love to see him on the podium, love to see him on the podium as a winner. I think this is a perfect Grand Prix for him to do so. It's early enough in the season where he can get a lot of good luck under him, potentially have some DNFs for other teams. And I think if the stars all align, hopefully Kimi stands on top.
That's a great pick. I think I'm going to have to go with the pole sitter. And I see Jason's also doing that. And I see a lot of folks are doing that. George Russell. I mean, but if there's a mistake and Kimi capitalize it, Kimi's going to be hard to beat because I don't think he's going to make any mistakes today. I think he's looking really good. Been Japan After Dark show. Jackson picked Yuki to go from 17th to 1st. So if that had occurred, yeah, that would have been crazy. I mean, I'm trying to recall who is starting 17th today. I don't know. 17th, Fernando Alonso. There's no way he's going to get the win.
Hey, never say never, Joe. This is After Dark. Anything can happen in Australia.
Anything can happen, and we're just so excited to have F1 back and so excited to have you back on the air again, Nicole, and encourage everyone, TikTok, follow Nicole, and of course, across social media at Grid Network TV, and subscribe to us right here on YouTube. This is your first time watching. Every Sunday after the last race, traditionally is NASCAR. About 90 minutes later, we'll be on there to recap everything. So this weekend, NASCAR, F1, IndyCar, Supercars. We're less than a month away from the grid ranking, first Sunday of April. Invest in us through Patreon, link in the video description. Big thank you to Colin, Shell, Mark, Robin, David, Matthew, Crystal, and Nico, our newest investor, for investing in us. I know Nicole and I were looking forward to Portland, Pacific Northwest. I know, Nicole, you got a busy travel schedule with some other visits. So help us grow the team, help the team gain experience. Be sure to invest in the Grid Network. Darkness has fallen. Ferrari's dream about winning championships is over. Ferrari needs to learn from Mercedes, McLaren, and Red Bull and take engines from other countries than just Italian engineers. I still got faith in the Ferrari engineers. I just think maybe it's just something within the organization that seems to be a little bit of a curse. We've heard the stories of Michael Schumacher really got a team around him with John Todt, Ross Brawn, got that going. That's what I think, Nicole. I don't.
I agree with you. I think, if anything, Ferrari has brilliancy and its ability to build and survive and to maintain its position relatively well on the grid. I think the biggest issue is mindset. It always has been. It's more so the culture within the team that I think holds it back at times from progressing, from moving fast enough to actually be super competitive and at the front of the F1 grid. And we know they're capable. They have dominated in Le Mans. They have done well in WEC. And it's, I think, very sad to see that they haven't been able to perform as well as they would like in F1. I think their time will come, but I think it's going to take some major shakeup for that to happen.
Major shakeup for something like that to happen. This comment, I think, sums it up. Ferrari won't be Ferrari with a Mercedes engine. Correct. I would have to agree with that. I think of Sebastian Vettel's quote, "Everybody's a Ferrari fan."
Mm-hmm. It's hard not to be.
It's hard not to be. You put a Cadillac engine in a Ferrari, that's just not the same. It's just, no, can't do that.
It goes against everything they want, which is Ferrari dominance from head to toe. I feel like for them, it wouldn't feel like a true Ferrari win if they didn't have a hand in every single piece of it.
Exactly. And I mean, there might be the Ferrari curse, but curses are meant to be broken at some point. I just see that where that could be coming someday, hopefully sooner rather than later. And Ferrari just needs new inspiration. That, I think we could all say something where the inspiration, the ideas, the talent, love to see what they could do. With that said, we're going to head off the air. We're 1 hour away from the start of the Australian Grand Prix, so perfect time for everyone to get ready. It's going to be a late night of racing, but a fun night of racing. Formula One's back, and of course, after Australia, going to China, it's going to be a fun start to the season, and all the news, especially with everything going on in the Middle East, follow us here at Grid Tonight. Kobe and the team had a great piece about everything ongoing and potential impacts in motorsports. And then Monday, Grid Rising, Tanner, Matthew, everything from Xfinity Series, O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. I did that mistake, so. O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, the Truck Series, Formula 2, Supercross, all right here at Grid Network, so be sure to subscribe. For Nicole, I'm Joe. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time, and enjoy the races.